One explorer vanished into a jungle chasing a city that may have never existed. Another explorer climbed higher than anyone thought possible, and when his body was found decades later, a single missing item left the greatest mystery of Everest unsolved. The third explorer sent one last calm message, then disappeared into a war zone where even records vanish. These are not legends. These are real explorers who crossed into history, trying to make history, and never came back. And what you are about to hear only makes it worse. Let's begin where obsession swallowed a man whole. Percy Fawcett was a British officer and explorer. He obsessed with finding an ancient lost city in the Amazon rainforest during the early 20th century. He believed the Amazon was hiding something ancient and powerful. The Amazon was not a destination for Percy Fawcett. It was a calling. In 1925, he entered the jungle with his son Jack and a friend named Raleigh Rymel. He believed an ancient city waited deep in the forest. He called it the Lost City of Z, convinced he would come back famous. They vanished. No remains surfaced, no journals turned up. Years later, a compass appeared near their route, corroded and silent. Some believe they were killed by a hostile tribe. Others think they found something and chose never to return. What stopped the search cold was not what they failed to find. It was what turned up years later, exactly where no one expected it. The jungle still keeps its mouth shut. Amelia Earhart was a pioneering American aviator and aviation icon, and did not disappear quietly. In 1937, she vanished during an attempt to fly around the world solo. Her plane lost contact near Howland Island in the Pacific. The last radio message that came through was distorted, desperate, and possibly her last. What it said still divides investigators. Search teams scoured the ocean. Nothing surfaced. Decades later, fragments of metal and bones appeared on remote islands. Some match her aircraft, others do not. The ocean, as always, refuses to testify. George Mallory was a British mountaineer who participated in the first 3 British Mount Everest expeditions from the early to mid-1920s, and believed Everest existed to be climbed. In 1924, he and Andrew Irvine climbed Everest before oxygen tanks were reliable and before survival was likely. Yet they pushed toward the summit. Clouds eventually swallowed them. When Mallory's body emerged from the ice in 1999, one missing item changed the entire story of Everest. The photograph of his wife, which he promised to leave on the summit, was missing. Either it was lost, or he reached the top. Time will surely tell. Ludwig Leichhardt was a Prussian-German explorer and naturalist who attempted to chart Australia's unexplored interior during the 1840s. Australia's interior was a blank space on European maps, and he wanted to fill it. In 1848, Ludwig Leichhardt set out to cross it. He entered the desert confident. Then, his expedition vanished into heat and distance. Years later, explorers found charred saddlebags and a rifle stamped with his initials. The land did not return him. Jean-François de la Pérouse was a French Navy officer and explorer after having enlisted in the Navy at the age of 15. La Pérouse was sent by King Louis XVI to map the world's oceans. He succeeded. Then, in 1788, his ships left Australia and vanished. For nearly 40 years, no one knew what happened. The first real clue did not appear until the 1820s by pure accident. Wreckage surfaced near Vanikoro Island, near Solomon Islands. Survivors likely lived there for years before disappearing. Even success did not guarantee survival. Everett Roos was an American artist, poet, and writer, and loved his solitude. At 20 years old, he wandered Utah's desert, painting, writing poetry, and sleeping beneath open skies. In 1934, he walked out of Escalante and never returned. The last message he carved into stone suggests he did not expect to vanish. That is what makes the silence unsettling. Some think he fell into a canyon. Others believe he chose a new identity. No proof confirms either. Henry Hudson was an English sea explorer and navigator during the early 17th century, best known for his explorations of present-day Canada and parts of the northeastern United States, discovering waterways that changed empires, with rivers and bays still bearing his name. In 1611, after his crew mutinied his ship, ice trapped the ship. They set Hudson, his son, and loyal crewmen adrift in a small boat. No rescue came. The mutineers believed leaving Hudson behind solved their problem. It only created a mystery that still refuses to sink. The Arctic swallowed them without comment. Gaspar was a Portuguese explorer who sailed toward Newfoundland in 1501, chasing new land and glory. He disappeared. No wreckage appeared, no bodies surfaced. The ocean behaved as if his ship had never existed. Miguel, his brother, also a Portuguese explorer, refused to accept his brother's disappearance and followed 1 year later to find him. He never sent a single message back and disappeared too. The Atlantic kept both brothers. Andrew Irvine was a British mountaineer who took part in the 1924 British Mount Everest expedition alongside George Mallory. Andrew Irvine was younger, faster, and vital to the Everest mission. On June 8, 1924, he vanished into cloud and rock. For a century, Irvine left no trace. While Mallory's body was found in 1999, Irvine's remains were only recently discovered in 2024, potentially holding clues, especially if his missing Kodak camera is found, which could hold undeveloped photos of their ascent. In 2024, climbers found a boot containing his foot. This discovery reopened every argument about who reached the summit first. The summit remains secretive. John Cabot was an Italian navigator and explorer who left England in 1497 with 5 ships and bold promises. 4 returned. Cabot's ship did not. Storms, starvation, or distant shores may have claimed him. The 4 ships that returned told conflicting stories. None could agree on what happened to Cabot. History offers no verdict. Richard Halliburton was an American travel writer known for extreme stunts and treated travel like performance art. He swam the Panama Canal. He rode elephants across Europe. In 1939, he attempted to cross the Pacific on a traditional Chinese junk, and a typhoon struck near Guam. The final radio transmission described weather far worse than expected. After that, even debris refused to appear. The typhoon erased both man and boat, only leaving a myth. Sir John Franklin was a British Royal Navy officer, explorer, and colonial administrator. In 1845, Franklin sought the Northwest Passage. Franklin's Arctic expedition began with confidence and modern equipment. His ships soon became icebound. The crew starved, while illness spread and cannibalism followed. Search teams hoped for survivors. Instead, they found evidence too disturbing to ignore. Searchers found notes, bones, and abandoned camps. The ships themselves were only rediscovered more than a century later. The Arctic kept the rest. Ambrose Bierce was an American author, journalist, poet. A prolific and versatile writer, Bierce was regarded as one of the most influential journalists in the United States, and as a pioneering writer of realist fiction. He walked into Mexico during its revolution at an old age in 1913, as he followed Pancho Villa's forces. One final letter reached home and sounded calm. Then, silence. That calm is exactly what makes historians uneasy. War erased him. Raoul Wallenberg was a Swedish diplomat who saved thousands of Jews in German-occupied Hungary during the Holocaust. In 1945, Soviet forces arrested him, and he vanished into the machinery of the Cold War. And truth disappeared with him. Official records claim one outcome. Official records contradict themselves. All outcomes cannot be true. The truth remains classified or buried. Solomon August André was a Swedish engineer, physicist, aeronaut, and polar explorer. In 1897, André attempted to reach the geographic North Pole by hydrogen balloon. He believed technology could defeat nature. His balloon lifted off toward the North Pole. The balloon failed quickly. André's last camp was found in 1930, along with his journals and remains on White Island. The journal entries stopped suddenly, mid-thought, as if something interrupted them. His final days unfolded in ink and frost. René Robert Cavelier Sieur de La Salle was a French explorer and fur trader in North America who claimed vast land for France. La Salle claimed the Mississippi Basin for France. However, his leadership fractured his crew. In 1687, his exhausted men turned on him in Texas. A bullet ended his journey, but not the mystery of his remains. Theories persist, but where his body lies remains unknown. Peter Tessum and Paul Knutsen were Norwegian Arctic explorers. In 1919, Tessum and Knutsen carried records across the Arctic, but they never arrived. When Peter Tessum's sled finally appeared, something critical was missing. The letters survived, but the absence still shapes the theory. Knutsen vanished under nearly identical conditions, yet the evidence left behind tells a different story. Only scattered equipment told part of the story. The Arctic offered no witnesses, only distance and theories. Benjamin Lee Smith was an English Arctic explorer. Smith, who successfully explored the Arctic repeatedly. His final voyage was an expedition in 1881 to Franz Josef Land, an archipelago in the Arctic Ocean. His ship was wrecked, but his crew managed to survive the harsh Arctic winter. The crew was eventually rescued in 1882. Despite his expertise in the Arctic, Lee Smith's work has received little attention and he faded from history. No dramatic wreck, no confirmed end. Some just disappear quietly. Pancho Villa was a Mexican revolutionary and guerrilla who trusted only a few men with his gold. He sent them into northern Mexico to hide it. Then some of them never came back. The treasure survived. The men did not. Rumors persist that the treasure is in caves and shallow graves. Gold has a way of erasing witnesses. Eudoxus of Cyzicus was a Greek navigator and diplomat who attempted to sail around Africa in the 2nd century BC. He never returned. Ancient historians debated his fate for centuries. None could explain why no trace ever returned. Silence settled the debate. Exploration does not always end with discovery, as sometimes it ends with absence. These explorers pushed past the edge of certainty, and history followed them only part of the way. If this story pulled you in, let me know by subscribing and liking this episode. It tells us that curiosity still matters. Comment below with the disappearance that unsettled you most. History remembers questions longer than answers. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep exploring mysteries from history that are stranger than fiction.